All right, another podcast from the Michigan Institute of Athletics in Brighton, Michigan. It's going to be a great podcast today. I'm super excited about this one. Right before we get into it, I want to shout out VetLife. VetLife is a 501c3 nonprofit company. It's a company of veterans for veterans. Every veteran faces difficulties when they transition from active duty back to civilian life, and VetLife is there to ease that transition. If you want to reach out to VetLife, you can do so through Instagram or Facebook, or check out their website at vetlifetoday.org. So without further ado, the first man in the new and improved studio that we run in 3 cameras, Mr. Ty Wildmo. I believe anyone that watches my podcast, they already know who you are. They probably already know bits and pieces of your story. They already see what you're doing in the MMA world. But we're going to assume that a complete stranger is watching this podcast, for the first time. I want to start all the way at the beginning. Where were you born and raised? What were you like as a young man? Tell me a little bit about the family dynamics, and then we'll build all the way up to modern times.
Cool. All right, I'm Ty. Yeah, I grew up in Fenton, Michigan. I've wrestled since I can remember. I really don't have any memories pre-wrestling. I did that all the way up through college, wrestled at some prestigious high schools, moved around a lot, getting put in the best positions. Division I athlete, wrestled for University of Michigan. That career did not go the way that I had envisioned my whole life, and wound up retiring from wrestling after 2 or 3 seasons with a shoulder injury, and told myself, I've had a lot of this combat sport life, and maybe it's time that I think about my body and this, maybe 60 years I got left, and do I really want to be a crippled old man and stuff like that? And I was like, I think I want to retire. I redshirted, and then I had the injury, so I was out for a season, and I was like, I just don't think it's smart to try to come back and face these monsters with this predicament. So I'm going to keep my body safe, and then took about 1.5 years off, hated it, and came back, and, it's kind of confusing for my family because now here I am in a sport where the goal is kind of to hurt someone. So here we are.
What changed?
I think I actually kind of always had a little bit of a desire to experience what a normal life is, I started doing 2-a-days in like middle school. So I always had a very dedicated lifestyle. If I wanted friends to come over, I had to have gotten my lifts in and done my runs and all that stuff. So I always kind of yearned for this, what's it like to be normal, and I think that was a big part of what college turned in for me. Once I quit wrestling, I was, let's play video games and eat fast food all day and see how that goes.
Do you think that was a little bit of a rebellious nature to the fact that you felt like you had to wrestle to some degree? Like you forgot that you wrestle because you love wrestling and you love competition, and like there's a certain fire in your chest that, wrestling put you in touch with, but the rebellion side of you basically said, like, I don't have to do this. There's more for me. It's almost like you had to know if the grass was greener on the other side or if it wasn't. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I think to an extent. Wrestling was weird, man, because like I said, I don't have a memory not wrestling. It was.
Did you want to wrestle as a kid? When you first started, did you want to wrestle? Why were you in one of the toughest sports in the world?
I remember saying, yes, I want to wrestle. So I have an older cousin, Roger, and he wrestled before me. And I went to one match, or one tournament, and my dad was like, hey, is this something you want to do? And I said, yeah, because, my cousin was doing it. It looked fun. I wanted to be around him more, wanted to make my dad proud. And like, yeah, I want to do this. And I kind of remember my first practice being like, oh, wow, I'm doing this, and I've always kind of been, like, from the very beginning, I finished things. So once I was in it, I was in it. There was a period when I was around like some 7 or 9 or somewhere in there where I was crying at every practice. I didn't want to be there. I didn't get to, I wanted to spend time with my cousins. I wanted to hang out with my friends. And I was like, I'm just always wrestling. And, I took a season off and came back after that. And I just always remember, like, I'd watch my old film and I had abs and stuff. And then now I don't. And I just felt like, why did I ever stop, So that solved for me, like, at that point that I wanted to do it. I enjoy the competition. I had a lot of great friends through wrestling, and that was something I wasn't really seeing, I was really young still. I started wrestling. Personally, I kind of feel like 4 years old is a little young to start wrestling. I don't think I'd start my kids that young. But yeah, there was probably a bit of a rebellion, you know. It's not like my goal was to be the best I could be. It was demanded of me. I when I look back on wrestling, I don't particularly ever remember being driven to win a tournament. I don't remember ever, oh, I've got this tournament coming up. I need to make sure I'm my best so I can win it. It was always more about, honestly, acceptance, I think. I think I really more so worried about my coaches believing in me, my dad, you know, thinking I was successful. I had this issue growing up where if I ever wrestled a friend, I lost, man. And that's not like the kids that I made or the friends that I had through tournaments were like we would wrestle all the time. We were kind of rivals. That wasn't so much the case, but if I trained with someone in a practice, I would not beat them in a match. You know, then I didn't really know, but when I look back on it, I really think I just wanted them to be my friend. I didn't want them to like, you know, oh, he's better than me, I can't be his friend.
That search for acceptance almost.
Yeah, I think that's been a big thing. You know, not to go too deep on it, but a lot of my social aspects growing up had more to do with like finding acceptance. I know I'd go to school and I just wanted to be liked by everybody because, quite honestly, home life could be hell sometimes in the environment that I grew up with. I remember I viewed school as a bit of an escape sometimes. It was, you know, sometimes not the best feeling coming home. And this isn't an all the time thing, you know, but there was definitely periods where I went home and it's like it's just not a great environment, kind of a scary environment, not a comfortable environment. And so I think it was always so important to me that I didn't have any sort of altercation outside of that environment because I just had enough there, you know.
So do you think there was just like a peace in acceptance and like the not having all the turmoil, you were able to just like give your nerves and mind and whatever it was, you know, a rest that you were searching for? Like, because I'm trying to really understand like what is the huge drive for acceptance for a man that was like, you know, you're in wrestling, you're building yourself, there's things you could be very proud of. Being a winner tends to, you know, make you more confident and make you proud of who you are. So if you just went out there and smashed all your opposition, you would feel a lot better. But like you had just alluded to, you would lose matches to people that you probably could have beat in some weird psychological state of like, maybe they'll like me now. Maybe we can just be boys or something like that. Because like I value their friendship. Do you have any more insight into that?
This is a topic I've been working on with myself for a while. And I'm waiting for the answer to kind of arrive to me. You know, it's one of those things where when I stare at it too long, it just doesn't usually go anywhere.
You know what's interesting is when I was breaking down those fights last night, I don't know if you watched through when I broke down your fight, but I talked about the fact that you were thankful and appreciative for Grigsby, and it led to a different man walking into the cage because you weren't the man that showed up to fight Austin Spriggs. That was, you know, that guy got in your face. He tried to big dog you. He was 6'6". He, you know, he put the pressure on you in the way of like, hey, it's man against man. I'm going to whoop your ass.
Yeah.
And that brought out a certain Ty that was like, we'll see. You looked back at me before that fight started, and you said within 30 seconds, this man's on the floor. Right before the fight, and you had an extreme intensity in your face. That Ty is a completely different human being than the Ty that stepped in with Robert Grigsby. You knew you were going to win that fight. You knew you had the ability to win that fight. Obviously, things can happen, but you fought with a different energy and a spirit. Do you think this ties into the same concept?
I'm not worried about Rob liking me. I don't think that was so much it. I had a moment before my fight with Austin Striegel that really pulled my whole life into that moment. And I think that's why it was such a powerful moment. And to be honest with you, going into Grigsby, I was not overconfident, but highly confident that was going to be the outcome. As you talked about, everything you said was right. But I think I almost was waiting for that same moment to hit me for that fight, and it never really did. I know that my career in MMA up to this point has been, I'm a competitor. You know, I competed my whole life. I'm good at this competition stuff. I'm comfortable here. So I always, like, my first 4 fights, I would say, put on this air of I'm comfortable here. I'm not like hyped up. I'm not down. I'm just level because I've been here before. This is a sport. I'm competing, yada, yada. Striggle was different. Striggle, there was a moment where I was waiting and staging because there was the intermission right before my fight. We had phenomenal energy with our group that whole weekend. Our team was phenomenal, and I was standing, and where the staging was, it was just a curtain separating me from the crowd. And Sandstorm by Durad comes on, which is Vanderlei Silva's walkout song. And Vanderlei Silva was the first guy I ever saw fight where I was like, this is what I want to do, man. And, I kind of forget sometimes that this has been my dream my whole life, because when I was a kid, I would watch fighting. I'm like, Dad, that's what I want to do. Like, oh my God, I want to wrestle and I want to fight. And my dad was always like, you're not going to fight. Like, you got a good brain. You're going to save your brain. My son's not going to get punched in the head for a living. Like, that's not happening. So, man, my dad ran my life growing up. So be it. I'm not going to be a fighter. And here I am, man, getting ready to go fight. This is my new dream. This is the path my life's taking me. This is what pulled me out of the depression I was in college. And that song just happened to come on, man. And I did the little Vandy show, wrist roll, kind of triggered my inner Vanderlei, let that Durad hit me. And I had a moment where I was standing and staging, looking at the stairs to go up on the stage to walk to the fight. And like a voice from beyond me was like, in this moment, I am the man I aim to be, So I kind of view that fight, as a fighter, you spend months looking forward to the fight. When is it going to happen? Who am I going to fight? How am I going to feel on the night? And the reality is what a fight is a moment for you to stare at who you are in this moment, what you're trying to achieve, and to grasp it. That's all there is. And it's not to say if I was to go lose a fight, then I've lost everything I've worked for. But in that moment, I saw myself how I see myself every day, envisioning. I saw myself, the greatness I could achieve, the unstoppable force I will be. And the only thing Striggle was the man that was in the way, and that nobody's stopping that. It's inevitable, as long as I do the things I need to. And that's just the truth, man. I've made the decision with myself that if I get to the ripe age of retirement and I have not achieved everything I can, it's simply because I did not perform what I need to. I've never had a moment in this sport where, getting into it's like, oh, that's a lofty goal. Like, that's a crazy thought to achieve that. It's I've always known that I could be the top of the UFC. So when I get into those moments and it's okay, right now I'm as far along in this journey as I can be. Let's take it to the next step, and that's what that was. And I've got something inside of me that I've always had in wrestling, and it's the same thing you talk about. It's that switch. My dad would even talk about it, and it came out in certain matches growing up. And in those matches, it was always high pressure, like a really good opponent that I'm not supposed to beat, or the team needs me to come back some sort of way, and something triggers when I'm down in a hole or I'm doubted. And, that's something I'm trying to find a way to keep consistently. And so that's where my mission is right now.
So you've found that feeling of greatness within yourself, because that's what it is. It's a feeling of capability. It's a feeling of endless potential. It's the feeling of there's no reason I can't achieve my wildest dreams, right? You found that within yourself at different moments throughout your wrestling career and throughout your MMA career. What is it that gets you away from being that man? Because obviously we only get glimpses of certain things in life. We only get a quick glimpse. We get a quick view at our potential, and then usually it slips by. And for most people, they don't even look at the potential, or they don't want to face the potential, because that'll actually make the regular world more sad. It'll make their regular life more depressing. If they saw a glimpse of their potential or what they had, the chance to be in this life, it would be terrifying every day to wake up and realizing realize that they're slipping from that. Like, there's a famous quote that says, the only hell in life is meeting the man you could have become. And that's what that is that you're referring to. So even on the journey since we've met each other, I've seen this incredible roller coaster of a human being that is, I've witnessed myself as an external person from you. You seeing your greatness is one thing. The world around you seeing your greatness is even more profound because you are exuding it to that level. I've seen the greatness, and I've seen times when you've slipped from that greatness. I've seen times where you're not living in the power that you deserve to be living in. Give me some insight to, because I'm sure it's not like a light switch. It just doesn't go on and off. It's probably a slow pulling away or a justification for why you shouldn't be great. I want you to try to dig into that, because you're talking about something that if every elite member in here, we were talking about it before the podcast, the amount of potential that are on the mats out there is absolutely terrifying if you're a competitor. There are so many people that could achieve greatness in this building. It's unbelievable, right? But getting to that greatness is hard. You're discussing a part of the formula. Any insight you can talk about, go in as much depth as you would like.
I think I struggle to find balance. As I've mentioned before, my goals, while I do have very highly set goals for MMA, my biggest goals are in life in general. I'm focused on becoming the best man I can and finding what morals and what principles fit that the best. And I realize that some of the qualities about myself that I've fought so hard to remove in the years where I was focused on regaining my love for myself again, that those are the same qualities that are the strongest when I am striving for my best. So things like selfishness, the desire for fame, wanting the notoriety, things like that are all things that who I aim to be as a person, I don't agree with.
Why?
I think it's a misunderstanding that I developed at a young age between the difference between humility and self-deprivation and confidence and arrogance. I think I have a supreme hate for people that think they're the shit. I love my dad to death. I always will. Incredible soft spot for that man, but he's the most arrogant man I've ever met in my life. Literal God complex. Everything I ever achieved, I owe to him in his mind. And, to an extent, that's respectable. He did a lot for me. He got me to the best positions he could. He sacrificed. I was my dad's life growing up. He didn't care about himself. He got me where I needed to be, and I'm incredibly grateful for that. That doesn't mean his methods were always the best. You talked about what pulls me away from my greatness, and to be honest with you, it was always so beat into me how superior I am because of my bloodline and what I do and how hard I train and the things I do, that I'm just so much better than those around me, where I just reject that. I don't want to be better than those around me. I believe all people are great. I believe that I don't want to look down on my peers. I just don't. And I think that's a big part of wanting to fit in, is I just wanted to go to school and be normal, I think I kind of rejected this superiority complex. And I'm kind of losing my track here on where I was going with that.
No, it's right. I have a couple things that I want to dig into there. So selfishness, that's something that our society throws around all the time, right? People that put themselves first are often called selfish. People that put their goals and their aspirations and their dreams as a top priority, as one of the number one things that they're going to chase, they're considered selfish people. People that proudly stand on their strengths and are able to project those strengths to the world are called arrogant. And now there are clear differences between confidence and arrogance, but there are blurred lines between the two as well. Someone that is not confident may see your confidence and call it arrogance and may hate you for it. Someone that, completely backburners themselves and puts their life on hold for other people's content or other people's desires, think that you chasing your dreams is selfish. You need to redefine those things. Those are not real. That's not the actual truth. If you want to inspire and influence tons of people, your real goals are to change the world as much as you can, right?
Yeah.
If that is the case, you need a platform to do so. Well, how do you build a platform? Well, there's a couple ways to do it, but in my opinion, the best way to do it is by becoming a man that achieves his greatness to the highest level, to then thereby lead by example to all of the people you hope to inspire and say, look, these are the methods I used. These are the things that I had to do. I had to differentiate between confidence and arrogance. Because if I just label all confidence, outward confidence, as arrogance, well, then how can I ever be a man that is confident enough to actually achieve my greatness? If I label me putting myself first and making my dreams a priority as selfish, then how could I ever get to the point where I can inspire and influence all these people that I know I want to help? That's a good heart. That's good motive. That's where in the study of yourself, when you're looking inward, you're trying to find out who and what you are. And when your answers lead you to, I know I'm a good man at the base. I know at the core, if we had to classify between light or dark, good or evil, whatever you'd like to do, I am a driving force for positive change in the world. You have to make peace with that. And peace with that to a level of, there's going to be darkness in there too. Like in a yin and yang, okay? Like in all light, there are aspects of darkness. And if you focus on that darkness, you'll say, well, then I can't be light because darkness exists. That is a false statement, right? Just because there's darkness there or tendencies or mistakes or guilt or pain or I should have done this then. You even being able to recognize I should have done this then says that the base is good. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, you wouldn't be evaluating that decision. You'd be like, that's what I want to do, right? So when you know yourself at the deepest level, that gives you the foundation to say, I'm going to be confident. I'm going to put myself first. I'm going to do all these things because it will yield the ability to change the world to such a higher degree, and it will inspire countless people that are living suppressing themselves so that they're not called arrogant, pushing down who they're meant to be so that someone doesn't point at them and say, you're selfish, you're a narcissist. No, if you know at the core who you are, man, I want you to be the most confident human being that's ever walked to earth. At the same time, I want you to open the door for a stranger and tell them, hey, thank you so much for, to tell a waiter, thank you so much for the service today. You can do both. Mm-hmm. But you limiting your greatness does nothing but damage your ability to then bring out greatness in other people. You need to remember that. Yeah. I made a couple notes, so I'm going to bring up a couple things here because while you were talking, I was like, man, this is huge. You also said to me, I don't want to be better than other people. Well, you have to define that extremely clearly because your work ethic is going to make you better than other people that don't have the same work ethic. Your natural ability is going to make you better at certain things than other people. Your ability to look inward and use your intelligence to self-evaluate and grow as a human being is going to make you a better person than other people. So you can't look at things and pretend like it's a level playing field. It's not. Hierarchies exist through all things. And at the end of the day, the most successful rise to the top. If you are pulling yourself down in this sense of like, well, like why do I deserve it any more than the other person? Because you are doing the work, because you found out who you are, because you went through extreme periods of growth, because you want to inspire and change the world, because the world fucking needs that. The world needs you to be better than the random people that you see in your life around you. The people that are not stepping up to their greatness, you don't need to go like, well, you are better than them. That doesn't mean you're better than the potential that they have, because they have the potential for greatness too. They have the potential to get their lives together too. They have the potential to look inward. But there's a massive difference between those things. And very often, our fear of confidence and our fear of elevating and things like that is because we don't want the judgment of others. That's got to be secondary, man. I want to see the greatest Ty Wildmo that could ever walk the face of this earth. And you know what? I do not care the tiniest bit at what people point and say, arrogant, selfish, narcissist, whatever they say. Because when you inspire change and when you show greatness to other human beings, you are going to unlock the chains that hold so many people down and allow more greatness to come up. When greatness suppresses itself, or when winners bring themselves down, it does not help losers. It might make them more comfortable. It might make them, they don't have to see you on television making $1 million, and that makes them feel a little bit better because they went to the same high school as you. They were in the same math class. You know what I mean? All of a sudden they're going, wow, my life is shit in comparison to his. It doesn't help them. It might make them more comfortable. What helps them is you being so undeniably great that it pulls them up. That is what we need to look at. The last topic is, you mentioned normal. There's just no such thing, man. Where everybody is different. Everybody has different gifts. Everybody has different things. When you try to label things as normal or not, you take away from who and what you really are. You need to be you. And if you have this animalistic drive that when you can switch on in a cage and want to take the soul from a human being, you can't be afraid of that. You have to embrace that. We need strong people. And then I'm just using that as one example. But you can't be afraid of what is considered normal or not. You know what I mean? Because maybe the world needs a lot more people that are willing to live exactly as they are and not blend to what they think they should be.
Right.
So I want to start moving towards the actual period of when you stepped away from wrestling. We can't skip over that as quickly as we did. You stepped away from wrestling. So you went to go for more of the normal life. You went to tone down all the greatness. You went to give up on having a platform and just get it, let me just make some money and have a girl and have a family and just be a normal guy. I want to dig into why did you not find fulfillment in that, or where your mind was in that, or what it was like initially, but then what it was like over time when you were like letting the flame be doused. I want to dig into that because I think it is so important for a lot of people that they're going to have those same questions, man. People wonder if the grass is greener on the other side. So many people have to touch a hot stove to find out that it's hot.
Yeah.
We need to dig into that.
Okay. So I quit wrestling, and there'd been a lot of things in my life that I just wouldn't partake in. Weed for one. Like the day I quit wrestling, I was like, well, my dad actually, I think this worked really well. He told me my whole life, he's like, Ty, don't smoke weed because you'll like it too much. Like, you'll just want to sit on the couch and play video games. It'll make you complacent. Like, I'm not even telling you it's a bad thing. You'll like it too much. Don't do it. So I quit wrestling, and there's no reason to be ambitious anymore. Let's see how much I like it, And, it took over my life for a good while. I've got it quite a bit under control now. It's just medicine at this point. But I think what really hit me to where I had to turn my life around after that period is I always had a supreme confidence. Like, my whole life growing up, I loved myself. I was a happy kid. Shit rolled off my shoulders. I didn't get down. I thought depression was a myth until this point in my life. Like, I thought people were making it up. You're just feeling sorry for yourself. I did not believe in it. Until slowly, man, depression took over. I was no longer seeing the best version of myself. I'd had at least a 6-pack my entire life, sometimes hovering like 8. Like, I was in supreme shape, and losing my abs, not seeing the person I was my whole life, losing the boulder shoulders, just appearing weaker. That was one big thing. Being in college, I had a whole lot of imposter syndrome. I was convinced that I made it to the University of Michigan simply off my wrestling skills, because, that was always what was kind of the pressure to perform in wrestling was, look, Ty, our family doesn't have the money for a great education. We need you to get yourself a scholarship. So that was always the driving factor. And I actually think the moment I committed was the moment that I kind of had lost myself. I think I had always had this goal that this is to get a degree. That's my purpose for doing this. It will be better for my life if I can earn this degree. So my junior year wrestling, I think I took 4th in state, but I actually think I was my most dominant my junior year. I was wrestling at 215. I only weighed like 197, but my buddy was at 89. So I'll be the guy. I'll wrestle 215. I was motivated. I would do 2-a-days. I would get home from my second practice, and I'd go lift with my coach. I wouldn't get home until 10:30, 11 at night, still have to do homework, go to bed. I was an unstoppable force that year. Beat the guy that beat me at individuals. I beat him and made him puke at teams. So once again, I'm perform better for the team than I do individually. But I really think that when I made that call and committed to the University of Michigan, it was like, oh, the pressure's off. I've succeeded. I coasted my whole senior year. I didn't think I really performed that well. I honestly think it was one of my worst years in high school wrestling. Still secured the state championship. And then, honestly, once I got to U of M and I was wrestling, I remember having this idea that I'm going to be their dog, They basically bought their rights to me. I am their war machine. Whatever they tell me to do, I'm going to do it. And that's not the way that college works. They watch how you work, what your mind is, where are you the one staying after practice because you think you should. It's not a coach saying, hey, if you do this, you'll succeed. It's how much do you want it? And then they put however much energy you're putting into yourself, those coaches will put into you. So needless to say, I kind of got pushed to the wayside because I was waiting for them to tell me what to do. I wasn't deciding what to do. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that growing up, I was just told what to do all the time. I'd just follow the directions, and, it had gotten me where I was supposed to be, so I thought I was going to maintain that course. And it's just not the way things work in college, and it's not the way things work in here either, So it was a very valuable lesson for me to learn. I think it's why I have a lot of the success I have today is, you got to do it from within. You got to want it, and you got to, I saw something recently because I'm big into, the self-improvement and things like you talk about. And it was a post or something on Facebook about how once you reach a certain point, there's no more advice you can get. There's no more magic serum. You're not going to hear something and, it fixes your life. You already know everything you need to know to get where do you want to be. You just have to do it. And that's where people miss it, So that was probably one of the biggest lessons I learned from that area. And I also have realized that there's that hope experiment, right, where it talks about the rat that was in the water and, the scientists were trying to figure out, I'll give a brief summary. Clearly you know it, but for the people listening, if they don't know, science were trying to figure out the effect that hope has on a living organism. So they would put a rat in a jar of water, and see how long it would swim before it would give up. And it did something like 5 hours or something. And
it was really short the first time. It was only about 15 minutes.
15 minutes?
Yeah, it was an extremely short period. Mm-hmm. But then right before the rat drowned, they would pull it out, dry it off, give it just a short period and throw it back in. And then it was an extreme amount. It was not double, not triple, not hours and hours and hours more just based on the belief that it was going to survive. That's what they concluded.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable.
Right. So I read that story, and this came to me after I had kind of, had my bouts with depression. I'd gotten through the worst of it, and I feel like I kind of have a handle on it. So, hearing that story and then looking back and man, I was in that hole, and who pulled me out but me? I had me there. I had this assignment in college where I was supposed to reach out to one of my coaches and kind of have an interview with him, and one of the things he told me that meant more coming from him than anyone else, because I'd heard it before, was that people that come from the situation I came from don't end up where I end up. He told me that, the fact that I am where I am, it speaks volumes of who I am as a person. And I never really let that hit me until it came from him. I have this habit of going through incredible hardships like nothing's going on. I just kind of ignore them or don't give them the weight that they deserve until it's over with. And, you hear the joke about how you make a joke about something you went through and the room doesn't laugh. They're like, oh, that's my life, right? So, when I really look at the situation growing up and how a single father battles with alcoholism, quite honestly, a fair amount of abuse that I grew up always kind of pushing to the wayside is discipline. He only ever does it when I deserve it or this or that. But upon reflection, wasn't always the case, and there's no blame to be put there. It's generational stuff. He was doing what he learned to do, and that's why I fight so hard to fix those pieces of me's, because I'm where it ends. It won't continue in my line. But going through that really hit me, because when you hear about people who had a hard life, right? And sometimes you'll watch YouTube videos where like they're interviewing a homeless person just to see where their life went off. Like, I realize my life sounds a hell of a lot like a lot of those people, where I grew up kind of not feeling loved, feeling like my only worth came from my performance in sports, not who I was as a person, and things like that. And that's what really kind of gave me the strength after hearing that hope experiment, is like, who did I have in all of that except myself? I always have the strength to pick myself up from anything. And that's really stuck with me since then, to where I don't even view obstacles as obstacles anymore. It's nothing more than a chance for me to prove how strong I am. Anything I go through, of course, it's not an immediate reaction. I have my woes as me's, but at some point I'm like, I've been through a hell of a lot worse, and nothing has broke me yet. I'm the best I've ever been at this point. I continue to get stronger through everything I go through. So, like, why does it matter if there's another obstacle? I'm only going to come out stronger. So that's been a very powerful thing for me to kind of connect with.
During that dark time, what finally flipped the switch to make you come out of it? Because obviously you broke free from it. You let go of the grasp. You could have sat around and, because for a short period, you probably thought you were going to just be fat and happy and do what you wanted to do. And all the pressure was gone. So that means life's going to be great, right? You don't have to be anything anymore. You get to just unwind and relax, and life has no responsibility. And like, this is awesome. I have no accountability. Nobody can say that I should have done this or could have done that. But it didn't go that way, did it? So what finally flipped the switch, and how did you come to that realization?
That lifestyle might work well for people that didn't grow up in a combat sport, or grow up athletic in general. I have this moment often where I'm living my life and I realize my priorities and how the things that I hold important in life, most of the population don't even concern themselves with. Like, my biggest concern is making sure I get my training in every day. Like, that's not even a thought for people. I don't understand the mental processes of a non-athletic person. I never will. That's just a facet of life that'll never make sense to me. So of course it didn't make sense when I tried to live that way for a few years,
It went on for a few years, though, so think about that. I need to know more about that period of time. I didn't know you. It's not like you went for 2 months and you snapped out of it and said, whoa, this isn't for me. Mm-hmm. No, it lasted for years. How? Why?
I think I kind of fell into the societal pressure of depression kind of being cool. For a minute there, it's funny to joke about being sad. It's cool to be unhappy, things like that. I think I kind of, I didn't look at depression and think, oh, I'm depressed, I need to do something to get out of it. Like I said, I didn't even believe in depression. And I honestly think, because I'm a rather guilty person, I feel extreme guilt when I do anything I don't feel was proper of me. I think I felt a lot of guilt about all the people that I watched growing up who were depressed and looking at them and thinking they were weak. I think I kind of was like, I deserve this. I didn't think this was real, and look at it. It's swallowing me. I can't do anything about it. I legitimately just gave in. And I think that's what a lot of people do. You're asking me, like, what was the moment? But a lot of that time's just a blur. I wasn't doing anything. I wasn't striving for anything. I hated being in college. I was just struggling through. Fun fact, I walk for commencement tomorrow. Because I didn't get one because 2020 graduation, so I'm officially closing that chapter tomorrow, which is quite exciting for me. Because let me tell you what, man, that college degree was not about getting a piece of paper, getting a job. nothing. That was about proving to myself that I can make it through anything. Any struggle, I'm getting through it. Nothing breaks me. So that'll be a good time. But I remember just constantly, when I would feel sad, I was like, well, I'm just depressed. It was never, I'm sad, I should do something about it. Or I skipped class, like, that was bad, I shouldn't do that. It's like, well, I'm depressed, so it makes sense, You
were almost giving yourself an excuse that you could always go back to.
Absolutely.
Like, if depression becomes a part of your identity, you have a crutch for the rest of your life. You get to say, it's not my fault, I'm depressed. I mean, and I'm not saying, there are people that struggle with depression horribly, but that doesn't mean that action isn't the answer, or coming up with a plan, or doing the best you can that day, even if it's far from your best.
Absolutely.
I've seen that a lot in people where they become a victim of their own condition, to the point where you can always be let off the hook. If you let people down, or you don't do what you say you were going to do, or you lack accountability, or you're doing a bunch of shit that is low caliber, you get to just write it off as, well, I'm depressed. That's really, I mean, it's kind of a shit excuse, because even when you're depressed, although you might not want to hear this and you might not believe this, you can still take action.
Absolutely.
You can.
Yeah, and I heard something on the radio, which is weird. Who listens to the radio in this day and age? But it was talking about depression, and this is back when I was depressed. I think this is actually kind of the moment that really, like, clicked for me when I changed. Is it was talking about how you can literally convince the cells in your body to be depressed. And I'm like, well, there it is. That's what's going on with me. I'm sitting here telling myself, well, that's okay because I'm depressed, or this is happening because I'm depressed. And instead of, like, dude, I'm teaching myself to be depressed. I'm accepting that. It's just what I've become. I'm not Wildmo anymore. I'm depression, essentially. There's that. And then there's a more comical instance that I saved for my close friends as far as a turning around moment. But that was the big one where I was like, listen, man, I'm the one making myself depressed. I can be the one that stops myself from being depressed. You found you can't skip over that. You found the power still resides within you. Absolutely.
So many people think they need this medicine. They need this. They need to move to another state. It's because the weather makes them depressed. It's because the people around them make them depressed. It makes them, every time I see that, when I see that in anybody, like, I used to call it the running away dream. Like, the people that believe, if I just move, then everything's going to be fine. What you have to realize is there's inner conflict, or there's inner turmoil, or there's something in here. It is not your physical location on this earth. Mm-hmm. There are people on every different spot of the earth that are loving their lives and loving themselves and loving and living fully. It has nothing to do with the location. It could be due to the friends that you're keeping. Mm-hmm. It could be due to the environment that you're in. It could be, the weather can affect mood. But just because it's going to be shitty weather does not mean you're going to have a shitty life. I live in Michigan, which is some of the worst weather. I hate the weather here. I feel like the most blessed, thankful, happy person. I wouldn't want to live in anywhere else in the world. If you were like, James, we'll give you a mansion on the beach in Rio de Janeiro, but you can't be in Brighton, Michigan with your team, I wouldn't take it in a heartbeat. So all of these things are thinking that you need the external to change the internal, and that is not accurate. You found the power back in Ty that was there all along. That's the switch that most people don't make. That's why I didn't let you skip by that. Most people don't do that. They search and search and search for what will cure their depression, for what will fill the void, for what person, a boyfriend, a girlfriend, a doctor, a therapist. No, you are the answer to your problem.
Yeah, no matter where you go, you're always with you.
Jordan Peterson actually just said something. I watched a lot of videos, but he was speaking on his daughter who has like a rare disease that makes her body very difficult to use. She's gone through a bunch of things, but hip replacement surgery and stuff, as a very young woman. And he said something that said, and this line drops really hard for people that would have a disease or depression, but it's very powerful and very profound. He said, don't use your disease as an excuse. Well, I feel like we should be able to say, don't use your depression as an excuse. Mm-hmm. And that line is going to hit hard when you're depressed, because I've gone through extreme depression. I've gone through extreme sadness. But it's actually empowering, because it tells you, despite the depression, despite a disease, despite life, in defiance of all the things that may or may not be happening to you, you still have the power to change your life. And when you realize that, it's an incredibly empowering message. We are not as weak as we sometimes want to believe ourselves to be. We're much stronger. But we have to be told that strength exists in our deepest, darkest moments. When you're broken down, that's why you want to change the world. You've been there. That's why I want to change the world, because I've been there. Those people that are at their absolute bottoms that think, no, you don't understand, James. You don't get it. I have this. No. What I get is you have the ability to change your life, whether you see it or not. And if I can be a mirror that shows you that potential exists, then one day there will be a smiling, happy, radiating person that says, thank you. And then hopefully you do that for other people. You know what I mean? So that's an incredibly powerful thing. You almost just blew by it like, oh yeah, no problem. I realized this. That's huge, man, because most people don't make that realization.
Yeah.
So you start to change the chapter. How does the flame come back? How do you find MMA? Because there was a little kid at one point. You know, I never even knew that you wanted to fight as a kid. I didn't know that story.
It was sort of a memory that just kind of woke up in me in that moment, like I said. Repeat your question.
How did you start to find the fire again, and then how did you end up getting into MMA? Because I didn't even know that you had the dream of being a fighter as an adult, but yet here it is. It's almost like you had a path laid out for you, that there was a desire and passion towards, and you had gone off the path, but then somehow you got redirected to the path that you had once envisioned.
Yeah, I knew that I needed to get back to doing something physical, pretty much. And I always remembered that, you know, I had interest in fighting. It just never stayed with me how it was like the dream, you know, like that's what I want to do. It was always, oh, that'd be fun to do. It was kind of how I sectioned it off because, like I said, my dad didn't want me to do it. So I kind of formed this new relationship with it to where now it's like, well, I'm doing it to kind of get back in touch with myself, you know. I knew damn well that I was getting unhealthy weight-wise. I mean, I stopped checking the scale at 260. Like I was a big boy. I was unhealthy. I couldn't tie my shoes without getting out of breath. And you know, this is coming from a dude who I'm an incredibly athletic. I'm pretty gifted. I've always been able to do wild stuff. And when I would be out of breath tying my shoes, man, that was like, no wonder I was depressed. You know, I would look in the mirror and I could see who I was inside of this casing of gelatin, essentially. You know, I saw me crying to get back out. And so I, you know, made a post on Facebook and I said, hey, I think I'm going to try this MMA stuff out. Who's got a gym for me? And, Buddy Pointer commented on there talking about here, Chris Vish, who, you know, I was talking about kids I had little rivalries with. Me and Logan Vish were button heads in youth. So it was cool, man. It was like my wrestling, and that's another cool thing. It was like my wrestling community kind of brought me here. You know, the wrestling community is incredibly powerful. It's a phenomenal place to be. There's a lot of things that we as a community need to address, and I think it'll make our sport healthier for the youth. But all in all, we're a very tight-knit community. And so it was kind of cool for me to have that and to direct me here. And then, you know, the more I got into here, jiu-jitsu was my first love in here. Kind of, you know, I was thinking like, well, I'm a grappler, so I guess I should try the grappling stuff first. It'll be the easiest transition. And it was amazing because once, you know, you wrestle from 4 years old, there comes a time where you're not really learning much more. You're kind of just drilling everything, you know, and that's not to say you can't learn. You can always learn every day from anyone, but it's not like there's this whole plethora of new things. You're learning variations to the things you know. Now bring me in here and all of a sudden I'm learning how to choke people and stuff and joint locks, strangulations, you know, other aspects of ground fighting. And it was like unlocking a whole new skill tree. And I was so just excited and like, just excited to develop that and have a new sport that, wasn't just what I did. It was what I was happy to do. You know, I wanted to do it and, you know, it helped me a ton. I think starting jiu-jitsu when I did helped me graduate college because I remember like I just looked forward to like the 2 days a week I did it. I wasn't even doing it that much, but those days at least got me through. I'd leave feeling so much better. I still had the dog in me, which was nice. It felt like old Ty was still alive when I was in here, to the point where my first month or two here, I have, I can drive down through Brighton and I can point out all the places I had to stop to throw up, because after every practice I would throw up, and it just became, well, how far away from the gym can I get before I'm losing dinner? So, you know, it was like an immediate, like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And, you know, met a lot of great friends through here, and that helped the experience as well. But, you know, just had the desire to find myself again, really is all it was. And
you actually touched on something there that was really eye-opening for me. You said, hey, when I was looking at myself in the mirror and I knew who I used to be, or the former strength that I had possessed, the pride that I had in myself, and knowing that wasn't there, I was unhappy at what I was looking at. So it almost gave you a vision to chase again. You had something, you had a blueprint in front of you. That's very eye-opening in the factor that a lot of people that are struggling with depression that might be 260 pounds, that if they had never been the version of themselves that you once were, well, then they don't even have that pulling factor. Like, you had a vision and you knew it was possible because you had been there and you had felt the difference, and you know what it's like to not be winded when you walk up a flight of stairs, and you know what it's like to be able to be an animal in a physical activity. It's like, just sitting here today, I thought about it from that perspective, and I went, wow, if you had never experienced the difference, of course you wouldn't exercise regularly. Of course you wouldn't live discipline with your diet. Like, you could eat something you enjoy and get a little, you know, oh, that was delicious, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, because you don't see what you're actually sacrificing.
Yeah.
That quick little sugary treat in your mouth, you don't realize that you're getting further and further from a substantially better life. Better life physically, better life mentally, the universe treating you better, people treating you better, etc. That's very eye-opening, and we need to remember, I think, a lot of the times with people that didn't come from a higher place. Let's say they've kind of been lower level their whole lives, and I don't mean lower level in a derogatory way, nowhere near what you're capable of being. The farther you are from that, and if you've never experienced that, you have less pull towards it because you probably don't even think it's possible. You've probably bought into the bullshit excuses that, like, I just can't lose weight. I can't do this. There's no way I could ever speak publicly. There's no way I could be influential. I can't change the world. My opinion doesn't matter. It does. And all those things are true. It's just you may not realize that, whereas people like you and I, no matter how far we stray from the path, we know the path exists and we've felt the path. You know what I'm saying? And it's very different. And plus, we know that action is the key. There's this new thing that's kind of going around, especially with the younger generations, where they get like overly bought in and sold to the idea of like the law of attraction or manifesting reality. And they think that just like, if I just think the thoughts on what I want, then that's what life is going to do. No. Like, you can create belief. You can put energy out in the universe. You can, you know, come up with a story like that. Okay, this is what I'm going to do. But then you need the action. Mm-hmm. You can't just manifest yourself into the best person you want to be. You have to actually execute steps to get there. The manifesting, the key to that and the imagination is to create the vision so powerfully in your mind that you will do anything to get to that, right? It's not like it just, you know, it's almost like we have a bunch of young people believing in all these magics and like, if I just read these cards and I do this and I follow the energy of the pyramids and I then my life is going to give me what I want out of it. No, like, you need action. You need accountability. You need to be able to point and say when you're wrong. You need to be able to say, oh, I wasn't let down because of just this was unfair, as I did not step up. You're getting away from the personal accountability. So you had known the path, and you knew that if you got back on the path, it was possible for you. As you start getting your life back together, you start getting reinvigorated, we get you to step into the cage for the first time. That's usually a very powerful moment for people because, like, we legally get to be pretty much the rawest sense of ourselves in a modern society. Unchained, unafraid, well, afraid, all kind of emotion, but we're allowed to be our greatness in that cage, are we not?
Yeah.
We are allowed to step in there and be as dominant and overbearing and, you know, crushing as possible. Whereas, back to our earlier conversation, In normal life, so many people are constantly suppressing themselves to make other people more comfortable. We do the opposite when we step in that cage. What is that first fight like for you? At that point, do you know that you're going to be, you're going to be in MMA? Then we're going to talk about the roller coaster that you've gone through a little bit. And then I want to get to where we are now and then obviously the future.
Okay. This might be a surprise, but my first fight scared the shit out of me. Not in the sense of, oh my God, I'm fighting someone, this is terrifying. Not in the sense of how everyone else would feel fear around the situation. I was incredibly calm. I was excited. This was, like you talked about, my first step in this new journey. I'm showing myself. I remember, because it was that clip, being that little background area between the elevator door things. And you're like, how much weight did you lose? You're like bringing all this stuff up about this journey I've had. And I'm standing there like, I lost 80 pounds in like 3 months or something, like pretty short amount of time. And all that good stuff. And this journey, it's all accumulating. And then I got in there and I had a very, very, very familiar feeling hit me after the win. And it almost made me quit fighting. And it persisted until Miles Lee. When I won my state championship in wrestling, I felt empty. It did not mean anything to me. It didn't fulfill me. It kind of felt like this is it. This is what I've been chasing. It just didn't have any meaning. And I think a lot of it.
Why?
I think because, like I said, the real goal was always the scholarship, and I had already signed at that time. So I still struggle with it, to be honest with you. I don't know.
Are you allowed to be successful? Do you allow yourself to be the greatest form of yourself? Are you allowed to stand proud with a gold medal over everybody or a world championship belt and say, I'm the best on earth? Are you allowed to do that?
In glimpses, I am. And that's where I think I am now, and we'll get to that. But I think I'm finally to the point with myself where I can. And it's not I can now. It's I'm seeing that it's okay, and I'm working on accepting it.
And I'm supposed to.
Right.
If I'm going to change the world, I am supposed to bring out this greatness. Mm-hmm. I am meant to. I should. It is necessary. I need to. You need to put all of those words into that statement.
Absolutely.
So you take the loss to Miles Lee. It's your first setback as an amateur because you kind of run through your first couple of opponents. It's not even a competition.
And this has been a struggle with me too, my whole amateur career. And it comes with exactly what we're talking about in accepting success is I disregard all of my achievements, right? So I'm a 6-1 amateur, all first round finishes, until recently, it's been, what's it matter? I'm an amateur. Like, this doesn't mean anything. Look at the people I've fought. These aren't my caliber, things like that. And that, no disrespect to any of them. Great respect for all of them, actually. My guy made my debut against Taylor Endless. He's made a hell of a lot of himself. He's fucking lifting himself up, and it's very inspiring to see. Ron London, the guy I fought first fight back from surgery, that dude's just a dog. I love that guy, actually. He's a character. He's my man. But first 3 fights, man, first round finishes. I'm not exactly doing anything exciting, which I think might have been part of it because I was always an exciting wrestler to watch. People just loved watching my matches because I was, flashy and dominant. And something weird about strangling someone in MMA, it's not, you're going to call me deranged, it's not satisfying when they tap. If I lock in my last fight, I was in my head, don't tap, because I knew he was going to go to sleep. I was like, just go to sleep, come on, because it feels way better. Something just feels better when they go out. And so my first fight, he taps to a rear naked. My first fight, I also had like a 3rd-degree sprain in my knee or something. So I
want to clear the air in your mind really fast before I let you continue. Mm-hmm. That it's only your mercy and the agreement that we made initially that we were going to respect this third person that's in the ring that prevents the man from being unconscious. Mm-hmm. If I have a strangulation on anybody, there's nobody in the world that can stop that strangulation in time except me. Mm-hmm. It's my mercy or my acceptance of the rules that we've agreed upon that keeps you conscious. It's not because I couldn't have put you out.
Right.
It is literally a gesture of mercy. I could refuse to let go, and the ref's not going to be able to take me off in time. There's nothing you can do about it. You're going to sleep. Mm-hmm. So you got to remember that too. So you're because your brain is trying to downplay like, but because it doesn't have as much of a dominant feel. You don't see a rendered unconscious human being. So the audience doesn't look at it and go, oh my God, did you see how incredibly dominant? It is that dominant. Mm-hmm. I am being merciful. I'm being professional. This isn't a street fight. I'm agreeing, okay, if you go like this, then I am going to not separate you from consciousness. Yeah. But every single time you've secured a strangulation, the man is dead. Mm-hmm. You have his life in your hands if you do choose not to let go. And a rule set or a mercy allows us to go.
Yeah.
So you need to rearrange that, because when you look at it that way, then it's like, wait a second. I had the lives of 6 men in my hands. They couldn't do anything other than, hey, we're agreeing to those rules, right? Hey, you're going to let go, right? I mean, I'm being a little bit dark here, but that's exactly what it is. Every time I ever got one of these in my career, with a strangulation, my mercy kept you conscious.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. See, and this is one of the things I'm telling you about, where it's such a confrontation of me, because the me outside of the cage, I would never want to hurt anyone.
Yeah, but time out. We are agreeing upon a rule set where men and women can test each other to the greatest of our abilities inside of a cage for the entertainment of a crowd, where you put your mind, your body, your technique, your physicality, your athleticism, your fight IQ, your spirit, your everything on the line. We are agreeing upon this. This isn't, you're not in there it's not some random dude pulled off the street like, no, I don't want to fight him. I don't want to fight him. They're like, get in the cage. And he's like, no. Yeah. That is the part of you that doesn't want to hurt someone. You don't want to hurt a stranger. You don't want to beat somebody up that doesn't deserve it. You're not even angry at the people you're fighting. You are agreeing upon a test of self as a warrior in a very soft society to be able to express that warrior spirit to the fullest. So we have to rearrange your mind to be in as close to the truth as possible, because you're having these internal conflicts like, but I don't want to hurt people. But it's because it's a misrepresentation of what is going on. That is another warrior. Even if you look in their eyes and you don't see the same warrior that you know lives in you, because I remember that feeling. I remember looking at some of my adversaries and being like, listen, we're different. Mm-hmm. Like you're confident. Yeah, you're 12-0. Yeah, you're this and this. We're different. And I'm going to show you we're different. And what we can do is we can mislead ourselves. In their mind, they're a warrior. They want to separate you from consciousness just as much. They just don't have the ability to. Six out of the 7 times, even the 7th, because you only lost by a decision. Mm-hmm. They would have knocked you out if they could. They would have strangled you if they could. You agreed upon an engagement between 2 men. And in that moment, you said, I am the dominant one in this cage. Mm-hmm. Reframe that. It's not about harming people. It's not about being a person that wants to cause pain. Reframe that.
See, that's the thing, is when I'm in the cage, it is.
No, of course. Yeah. But I'm saying that doesn't mean that outside of there, you want to harm people. Right, the reframing listen, every time I ever got a submission on someone, I wanted to choke them unconscious if they didn't tap. Mm-hmm. I only showed mercy one time in my career ever, where I actually chose mercy. I armbarred Derek Mandel, and I had his arm, and I felt it pop once, and I was like, I actually respect this kid. He was 12-0 at the time or something like that. He was a top prospect. He had asked for the fight with me. He was the champion. We were both well-known in the state. And for some reason, I think my respect for him, I don't know if I can describe it in any other way. Like, if you're a great warrior and someone else is a great warrior, there's just a level of respect. Even if I'm trying to kill you, I respect you. And at that time, I was like, I actually don't want to break his arm. I remember thinking that. And if you go back and watch the fight, there's a chest cam, or I think he wore it on his head. And I actually have the arm bar. I start cranking it. It pops once. And I look at the referee and I say, like, I'm going to break it. And that was the only time I'd ever had that happen to me. And I was like, I don't actually want to harm this guy. And I had not felt, before I was like, yo, it's on you. Yeah. Tap or let your limb break, bro. Tap or go to sleep. But I was like, you know what? I respect this man enough that I don't want to break it. And he didn't tap. And I remember being like, you're an idiot. And then I just switched it to a triangle. And the funny thing is, when I triangled him, which, like, there's no pain in a triangle. There's discomfort. He tapped. Because his ego did not want to lose consciousness in front of everyone. But he was willing to let his arms snap. But that's where you have to realize being in the cage and wanting to harm someone doesn't make you a murderer outside the cage. It doesn't. in all light, there is darkness. And maybe because we're able to tap into that darkness as well, it actually empowers the light. It's back to, I'll cite Peterson one more time. A good man is not a weak man. A good man is an incredibly dangerous human being. Dangerous because he's powerful, he's confident, he's capable, he's competent. He's a highly formidable opponent. And because of those factors, you give him respect up front. You hope that he shows benevolence. You hope that the man has morals and standards. But you know what I mean? Like, the best people out there are incredibly dangerous people if they wanted to be. Like, I hope that this doesn't get me in trouble, but it is what it is. I'm an incredibly dangerous human being because I know the skill set that I possess, because of the intelligence that I have, because of my ability to affect people, because of my ability to inspire people, both good or bad. That's an incredibly dangerous person. If it is not guided, if there's not a moral compass, if there's not some benevolent cause behind it. That's why you have to know yourself to make sure that you're not going to be a horrific example of humanity, but you need to be dangerous. I want to be telling every one of these young kids, be as dangerous of a human being as you can possibly be, but don't do the wrong thing.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's where a lot of my misconceptions were at the beginning. Because like I said, my first probably 3 years of MMA were more so focused on my development as a human than a martial artist. And I was obsessed with killing the parts of me that are my anger, my jealousy, my narcissism, things like that, all those ugly qualities, and I wanted them gone. But what I'm realizing now, and specifically in the Striegel fight, because the way I felt in that fight is the way I used to feel when I'd go off the hinge, is it's not about removing that from myself. It's about having that deal like, hey, buddy, like, I tell you what, you're going to leave me alone in my life and I'm in control. But the moment I step across that threshold, because I do a thing when I'm going in the cage where I look at where the cage and like the canvas and the stairs end. And as soon as I step across there, that piece of me takes control. So, it's like...
it makes perfect sense, Ty. You're almost empowered by your darkness.
Yeah.
Instead of running from your darkness and hiding from the darkness or things that people would classify as the darkness, you are empowered by it. The light and the darkness combine, and that's where your greatness lies.
Yeah, and that's the balance I'm working on now where, I used to look at that version of myself and just be disgusted. It was just nothing I want. And now I look at it and I'm like, well, I think that's where my quality of demanding more for myself comes from. I think that's where my quality of, striving to be my best, demanding more for myself, wanting the best for myself, and, holding myself to a higher standard. I think that all is embodied in the version of me that looks at someone else and says, fuck you if you think you're better than me. And I think where I find my most high potential is living in that area, but with the tie that I've tried to cultivate as the moral guide. Because I used to live in that area, and I was a cheater. I was an asshole. I wasn't I still always had a kind heart at the center. I don't really think I was a bully. And, any instances I've looked back on where I was like, maybe I was bullying that person, I've reached out and kind of apologized. But I wasn't exactly someone I was proud of when I was my most dominant. And I think that's been something I've been nervous to tap back into because I'm very proud of the man I've become. I'm nervous if I start feeding that beast that I'll lose it. But I'm really starting to trust that I won't.
And maybe it's just knowing the path because, yeah, you could get pulled from a little bit. You might start to blur lines a little bit. But as long as you know the path very clearly and you can identify when you're starting to get off the path, you can pull yourself back to it. But it leads me to the idea that, like, I took notes while you were saying that where it says, like, just because you have the capacity to do something doesn't mean that you should remove the capacity. Like, to be a powerful man, as soon as you become powerful, you have the ability to do harm. But does that mean it's better to be a weak man?
No.
Just because you have the capacity for greatness, and greatness can anger people. It can make them envious. It can make them hate you. It can make them talk shit about you. It can make them do all kind of terrible things about you. Does that mean that you should not pursue your greatness? Should you be lesser?
No.
Because you're not meant to cater to them, bro. Your greatness will serve the world to a much higher level than the catering to others and weakness so that you don't strength unfortunately intimidates the weak, but it is our job as strong people to try to help weaker people become stronger. It is not our job as stronger people to bring ourselves down. Okay? And I want to be super clear about this. When I say strength and weakness, I'm not talking about a strong person being like, I'm so much stronger than you. There's nothing you... No, it's that you maintain all of your strength, but you show compassion. You show love. You try to inspire. You try to bring them up. On my podcast with Tyler, my cousin, I lightly cited this to you before we went on here. We went very deep into this topic. And I said, imagine if it's like a mountain and you're climbing a mountain of greatness, or you're climbing a mountain of strength, or you're climbing a mountain of whatever it is. When you're up high, these people could be very bothered by the fact that you are much higher than them. And they could be very bothered by the fact that you're much stronger, you're more successful, you have more money, you have whatever it is. But your only responsibility as a good human being, in my opinion, if you do anything, because you don't have to give to strangers. That comes from deep on who we are as a spirit, right? But your only responsibility is throw a rope down when you want to be the good person to pull them up, but refuse to come down to make them more comfortable. Refuse. No, if you want to come up to this level and I can help you, I will try my best to help bring you up too. But I will not come down if my goal is greatness and my goal is real strength and happiness and the ability to affect and change the world. I'm not going to come back down, but I will try to pull you up. That is the only responsibility that we should have. Because when we start weakening ourselves, when we start bringing ourselves down, when we start dimming our light to make others more comfortable, or to get, whatever contentment we get out of, like, well, at least people aren't angry at me, that is the absolute wrong thing to do. There's a quote that it always stuck out to me. When I was first starting this gym, the amount of hate that I got was unbelievable, because they're like, you're self-taught. You can't do this. You can't do that. You don't know shit about business. You didn't go to college, blah, blah, blah. You're like everything, dude. I didn't go to college. I didn't even walk in my high school graduation. I had to go to summer school to get my high school diploma because I was such an incredibly depressed kid. I didn't even go to school. I was broken, dude, from life. So I had 1 million people tell me you will not be anything. You can't do anything. Your gym is going to fail. You're not going to be able to inspire people. What are you? You didn't go to college. You're self-taught. You're going to be a professional fighter. And I remembered one of the quotes that said, if you want to avoid criticism in life, do nothing, say nothing, be nothing. And I said, you know what? I'm not going to be nothing. I can tell you that right now. So if criticism is going to come along with my journey to greatness, I don't give a fuck. I'm going to greatness regardless. I'm going to unlock the best version of James Gray that could possibly walk the earth to my ability. And I'll never achieve it. That's the beautiful part. I'll never achieve the greatness that I could have achieved, because we're never fully our best, right? But I'm going to chase it, and I don't care what other people think. And now look at the impact I'm having because I'm chasing the greatness versus tuning myself down. And I won't get some crappy messages on Facebook every once in a while. Mm-hmm. I won't have some random strangers who I don't even know or value them on their integrity level. Is like, these are people I wouldn't even take advice from. They're not going around. I don't have Gandhi looking at me going, you're doing the wrong thing, James. Mm-hmm. I'd probably take those words to heart, right?
Yeah.
I have some random strangers that has their own problem in their lives telling me that I shouldn't try to be great. I don't care about that, man. And you shouldn't either. And I hope, because I try to pour into you guys as much as humanly possible. I try to dump onto your guys' life like a football coach getting overwhelmed at a Super Bowl. I try to pour into your lives the message of be as great as you can possibly be. Defy all odds. Level up in the gym, outside of the gym, in your relationships, because everything matters. It all is cumulative. And the tie that unlocks all of his greatness will change the world to a much larger degree than the tie that's afraid to upset this person or doesn't put his foot down in a relationship and backburners himself. Or there's a bunch of conflict and you know exactly right from wrong. You know how it should be handled, but you avoid it to fit in. Don't do that. Just do the opposite. I'm never, ever going to be bothered by you if you're being authentic and you're being genuine and you're living and pursuing greatness. Never. And honestly, I'm probably going to be inspired by it because sometimes I get off the journey. And you know what's funny? When I get back to, I've had to make some really big changes around here lately. You know some of the big changes that have happened. Some of the people that are no longer with us and things like some big changes. Mm-hmm. I feel better. That's fucking weird, man, because there's been some people that have been around here that I poured so much of my heart and soul into for a long period of time. And the only thing I've ever told you guys is like, guys, I don't want your money. I don't want you to get ultra. I don't want you to make $100 million and go, you know what, James, I'm going to give you $1 million because of the impact you had in my life. I don't want any of that. You know what I want? Some gratitude. Please do that for other people. Go out and be. So when all of a sudden I realize, dude, I feel better with changes that I thought were going to cripple me. If you would have asked me a year ago or 2 years ago, hey, if this happened, how would that feel? I would have given you a sad story about like, I'd be so devastated. I blah, 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 blah. I feel relieved because if I've been underappreciated or people don't, there's some people that I've poured 1,000,000,000% of myself into that don't give the tiniest shit about me at all. Why should I value those people? I'm not gonna. And then there's a very dangerous slippery slope there that can turn you jaded. That can make you into a person that doesn't want to help people anymore. That can turn you into a much worse version of yourself as a coach. And I always come back to the question of, do I do what I do because of the response I get? Or do I do what I do because it's who I am? And whenever I get off the path, bro, one night I had tears in my eyes laying in bed a couple months back because of some of the things that were going on. And I came back to that question. Dude, it took everything away. And I went, I do what I do because of who I am. And then I was right back on track. And now I'm back to trying to take on the world still. Yeah. You know what I mean? So now I want to talk about, you just fought for your first amateur title. Mm-hmm. You won it in dominant fashion. We don't even really need to go into the fight because we've lightly alluded to it. But we're making progress now. You're right on the chapter of the Ty Wildmo amateur chapter is about to close. You're about to turn professional. You're getting in touch with your greatness. You're in a new relationship. You have a bunch of changes, a plethora of things all happening at once. I want to talk about what's different in your life right now versus a year ago, 2 years ago. Because in the story we've told thus far, once you started getting MMA, you started to find yourself again. Mm-hmm. But yet I know, even through that process, you have found the man that sits in front of me today is light years beyond the man that even existed a couple years ago that I knew. It's the same man at the core, but the way that you're actually living and radiating is much different. Let's start to talk all about that, and then I want you to talk about the future of what you think is coming up.
Okay. First off, I think the biggest difference is simply just the practice of improving myself. You know, obviously I was on a little bit of the self-improvement journey, but the beautiful thing with that journey is the more you partake in it, the stronger you get. So the more you prove to yourself, oh, I can change this about myself. I can change this about myself. Things like that, the easier it is and the prouder you are of yourself. Like, obviously, if I've crafted myself into someone that I think is worthy of respect, then I should respect myself. You know, if this is the problem where people know things about themselves that they don't like, and they just try to ignore it and tuck it into a corner, and hopefully it doesn't come out, but, oh, here it is. Like, for instance, my anger, right? It's not like I made the decision that, okay, I'm gonna fix my anger problem, and then it just went away. No, there's instances where, oh, here it is, and it's my duty then to take control, right? So instead of just flying off the handle, it's take some breaths, I'm going to remove myself, you know. The simple practice of, you know, not looking at that as man, I said I was going to fix my anger, and here I am yelling like, oh, I'm so defeated. No, man, this is exactly an opportunity to show myself that I am now in control. It's nothing beyond that. If you have an eating problem and like you're not supposed to eat fast food, oh shit, fuck, I bought some Burger King. Well, yeah, the good thing about Burger King is it's cheap, and you're going to get a lot of strength. If sure you bought it, throw it away. Don't eat it. Go get something better. Things
Or
like
sometimes just give yourself forgiveness and then do better next time.
Absolutely.
Because so many people hold this incredible sense of guilt that as soon as they messed up once, guess what? That feeling drives them down so low that they're going to keep messing up.
Yep.
Fuck, if you recognize that the choice you made was wrong or that you're not happy with it, that means there's a large part of you that wants to change. Absolutely. And honestly, be thankful that you recognize. Most people will stuff the fast food in their face every day, and even though it's taking them further from the goals, they're not even thinking about it. So if you're even making the recognition like, damn it, I need to do better than this, even though you're not today, that is the road. Yep. That is the path. And it's about framing it. I'm thankful that I recognize that I need to do better than this, and I'm going to keep on myself. And I'm not going to give you a break. You keep trying to just make me an autopilot show up at Burger King. One of these times, I'm going to take that burger and I'm going to throw it in the trash can, and you're going to have to watch that, wasted meal. Mm-hmm. So we need to make sure that we don't just always stack the guilt on, because guilt makes you feel worse, and when you feel worse, you do worse.
Absolutely. There's also strength in messing up to where you can use it as a comparison to like, okay, this used to be a constant thing, but now how long has it been since I messed up? Okay, well, this time let's see if I can go further, right? For instance, let's just talk straight to an issue. I know for a fact I have an issue with getting off track. Oftentimes it's after fights. Sometimes it just comes out of the blue. But a good way that I can at least positively try to pull myself back in early is like, okay, well, last time I was off track for 3 months. It's been 2 weeks. Let's just get back on track after 2 weeks. Like, you already showed yourself you can come back after 3 months. Imagine if you took 2 weeks off and now you're back on. So, failure is not failure. Failure is an opportunity to learn something always. So that's been big. I don't want to sit here and just talk shit on people, so I'm going to brush very lightly over this one. But just a much healthier relationship that I'm in now. And not at all that the last one was simply because of the partner. I was doing things. I wasn't putting myself first at all. And I was with someone who they needed to be put first, and that is what it is. Zoe now, she fuels me to be the best me. I don't exist to make her feel better. We don't exist to make each other feel better. We exist to be better and help each other in whatever way we can there. There's just a desire to have a healthy relationship and an actual effort to work towards having a healthy relationship, which personally I think is the most important thing to have in a relationship. I think if you take two people who don't really get along, but they at least have the intent of having a healthy relationship and the desire to work for it, that relationship will be more successful than a relationship where the people get along great, but they don't put the energy towards it actually working. Thankfully, we get along really well and we put energy towards it actually working. So
now, do you think you growing is a tremendous part of that as well? Not to say that that you were a heavy blame in the last one or that the other person was, but do you think because you are clearly growing that you're able to identify this quicker, you're able to communicate more effectively, you're able to put your foot down on things a little bit more, et cetera?
Absolutely. The little bit of time that I got to have to myself was big. I haven't had much alone time in my adult life. I've been in long relationship after long relationship. So the couple of months where I was by myself, I did an extreme amount of growing. I had just had my foot surgery, so I was kind of forced to sit down with myself. And, after my shoulder surgery in college was when the darkest time of my life started. So I had incredible anxiety about this foot surgery. It's why for the longest time I just acted like it wasn't a thing. Like if you remember, you had to ban me from the gym, so I'd stop coming in and I was just going to push through it, and I was not going to get surgery because that means I'm going to be depressed and I'm going to lose everything. Well, thankfully I'd done enough growing to view it as, no, this is an opportunity to show myself all the growth I've had. And man, I sat down and, well, I can't train 5 times this week, so I guess I better do therapy 5 times this week, which I didn't. I did therapy like twice a week or whatever, but I was like, if I can't work on my physical aspects, then you better damn believe I'm going to work on my mental aspects. And, I worked through some good stuff. I understood self-respect a little better and where to, because I have trouble drawing the line sometimes where I feel like, is this about me, or am I not letting this person, am I respecting my boundaries, or am I not respecting this person's right to express how they're feeling, to a certain extent, or things like that. So I always had a really hard time putting my foot down, and it's getting better, and it absolutely helps that I'm with someone who understands that I'm not only like trying to learn how to respect that, but I'm working on what the reasonable amount is to do. So there's also forgiveness if I'm being a little overbearing with it, because I know I can be. I know when I'm in let's say a fight camp and I'm like trying to really focus on myself, I know I probably put my foot down way too much, but I'm trying to find that balance. And the fact that I can openly communicate, maybe I am messing up here and I'm sorry, but like I'm trying to learn too. And there's that acceptance. So that helps a lot.
And if there's a mutual love there, that's what forgives. That's what says, thank you for that admission. Mm-hmm. Thank you for being honest. Thank you for recognizing that you can probably do a little bit better than what you're doing. Love helps solve that. You know what I mean? Because we're not robots. You can't just press the act perfect button and then you're never going to say anything wrong. You're not going to do anything. We can't. We're human beings. We make mistakes. But every day we can work to be a little bit better. So when there's that mutual love for the human being you're with, you don't just look at the decision. You don't just look at the words. You don't just look at the action that took place. You go, I love this human being, and they are trying, and I believe they're trying, and we're working to be better. So we'll get through this. We'll get better and better. Yep. You know what I mean? You mentioned therapy. Do you go and see a therapist, or when you said therapy, are you doing like self-therapy? What are the things that you've found that you've made tremendous progress with? Because countless people need to do the inner work, and a bunch of different things work for different people. What has been the process that has been the most progressive for you being into a healthier mindset? And like, what are the events, I guess? Because sometimes devastation puts people in the best place of their life. Sometimes heartache is the best thing that ever happened. Sometimes loneliness, emptiness. What are the things that really helped get your mind right?
I think this is an incredible strength of mine and also kind of a curse. I find my center best in turmoil. Like, my life is hell. I got shit going wrong all over the place. That's when I find it easiest to go, okay, bring it back to the middle. You just got to handle your business and things will be better. It's when for instance, right now, man, like I said, I just went through that surgery. I thought that was going to be the darkest point of my life, so I'm fighting through that. All of a sudden, I go on a 2-year fight hiatus, and I come back and I fight 3 times in 4 months. So I'm kind of on top of the world right now. And this is usually where things go haywire. And, I think maybe I've even kind of been waiting for it to happen. There's the talks of the pro going on, and there's the self-doubt of, oh, am I ready? Like, even though it's been 2 years now where I'm telling you, James, I'm ready to go pro, but now you're finally like, maybe we're ready to go pro. And I'm like, are we? But
funny how that works. You were pushing me in the beginning, like, I'm ready to turn pro. What am I waiting for? I need to just get out there. And I'm going, not yet. We're almost there. It's funny how that works.
Yeah. And there's even an interesting thing where I'm nuts. I was convinced you wanted me to take one more fight for sure. And I know you want me to be challenged before I go pro. And honestly, I'm with you on that. Like, you're onto something there. But, if I'm not going to get challenged, then I'm not going to get challenged. But I got obsessed with the fact, like, okay, he wants me to fight some beast before I can go pro. And I started just sending you message. What about if I fight this? How about we do that? I wanted to get on the card the next weekend. I wanted to take back-to-back weekend fights. And then
Slow down.
yeah, and that's what you're saying. Like, Ty.
It's the marathon, bro. It's not a sprint for 26.2 miles. It's crossing the finish line with your hands victorious, with a UFC gold around your waist, and changing the fucking world. Slow down.
Yeah. Yep. Take some time. But back to methods. So I haven't spent much time in actual therapy. I did it through my surgery because, what else was I doing? And I thought it was a good idea. It helped, and I honestly think I need to find another therapist and try to give another therapist a try because, the fact of the matter is not every therapist is going to be the best. And I liked my therapist, but I didn't feel like I was getting much out of it. Kind of just felt like I got to talk, which is what a lot of therapy is. But I think I need I need someone that's going to look me in the face and be like, listen, this is what that means, and here is a way to deal with it. Or at least like kind of doesn't just let me talk, but ask questions, kind of like you are. Like, what do you think that means? That I wasn't really getting that with my therapist. So anybody who has a good therapist, hit you.
One thing I'll point out, though, you got to be extremely careful about who you give that power to.
Absolutely.
Because human beings are on all spectrums and all levels. So you go to a therapist, and then just because they're a therapist and they went to school for that and and they start saying, well, what you just said, what that actually means is blah, blah, blah. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. All of a sudden, you take their word as a divine arbiter of truth, and it can take you down all kind of fucked up paths. It can take you down to believe in stuff that is absolutely not true about yourself. Right. What I will try to tell you is, regardless of what path of therapy you choose, Ty, better than any human being that will ever walk the earth. You got to build the trust in that relationship. You got to know yourself, and you got to realize, I've realized this just from this podcast with you, you are empowered by your darkness. You should not be afraid of it. For as much as a part of your psychology is so afraid to be the bad person or the mean person or the strong that hurts the weak person, you need your darkness, dude. You need that part of yourself that is willing to be the most dominant, vicious, successful, person that has it all together and lives as a great human being.
Yeah.
So you don't need to be bothered by those things. You just need, you know what it is? You just need to keep a really good eye on them. It's like, I ever tell you this story when I just thought of this on the spot. When I was over in Finland, the third house that I stayed with was a guy that was, I think he's a KGB agent, but he's a martial arts instructor in Finland. He runs a professional fight team over there, and he let me crash at his place, and he's like hardcore military. Like he was part of the Russian military, and like the dude was a savage. But he had these two dogs that when I got out of the car, they were like the most impressive dogs I had ever seen. I don't remember their name off the Siberian Husky, maybe? No, definitely not.
Was it a Mastiff?
Yeah, it was a massive dog. It's definitely not a Siberian Husky. They're absolutely massive. I'll remember the name. Something Shepherd, I think. Maybe a Siberian Shepherd. But anyway, I'll find it after the thing. They were two of the most impressive. They looked like bears. They didn't even look like dogs. They looked like bears. And I got out of the car, and I'm a dog person. So I'm like, oh, your dogs are sick. And he's like, no. And I'm like, what? And he's like, no, like you do not go anywhere near those dogs. And I'm like, why? He didn't have great English, but he said like they have bloodlust. And I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, we use them as like to kill people. Like those dogs are for combat, for fighting, for protection, for those dogs from the time they were little are trained to murder threat. And I'm looking at this guy like, what? They're what? But that is what those dogs knew. And I forget where I was going to this point. Do you remember how I got on this?
You're talking about my darkness empowers me, I'm assuming.
Yeah, God, I had it popped right into my head on why I needed to tell this story. But anyway, I just remembered there was a relationship there where there was a certain dynamic that the dog served a purpose even though it was doing something that would be considered horrific. That dog was protecting soldiers. That dog was protecting ops. Those dogs were, if someone came in and tried to kill him as he was a higher ranking military person, those dogs had one job. You don't play fetch with that dog. You know what I mean? And like he wouldn't even let me go near him. And the most shocking thing, and this was a bad ramble because man, I had tied it into such a good point. But when I got out of the van and I was walking towards the house, and I first went to go up to the house, and he's like, no, and like told me no. These dogs didn't bark at me. They stared me dead in the face And I remember it was a very chilling experience because like negative 20 degrees in Finland. We're like right on the border. These two monstrous animals just went like this. And as I walked by, they didn't even bark at me. And I remembered feeling this like, because he had just told me the story that like they're just trained to absolutely massacre people. And they stared me down without like, in the animal kingdom, eye contact is a big thing. Those two dogs were like, go ahead and mess around. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Try to harm our owner. Come over to this area. But anyway, like I said, I got a little bit off topic with that. But you got your pro career coming up. Mm-hmm. We're doing a lot of re-imaging, rebranding. You're finding yourself. I want you to talk a little bit about what the environment is like for you around here. Because at some points, I feel like when you were kind of struggling with the darkness and when you were kind of like being lesser, I saw a lot less of you. Mm-hmm. I saw a way lower version of you. I saw minimal effort. But I'm starting to see the Ty that I've always known exists. I'm not even starting. I'm seeing the Ty that I know exists. Mm-hmm. How important do you think environment is when you're in the right state of mind? And let's just talk about, you've seen SFS prior to the elite team, and you've seen SFS now that a couple things happened to me in my coaching life that it really flipped a switch in me, and I was like, you know what? I am just putting my foot down because I am so sick and tired of trying to show people what their potential looks like to have them point fingers at me. I'm going to be like, no, this is what needs to happen. Mm-hmm. So we created the elite team. Talk a little bit about just your presence, the environment, SFS before elite, what it was like for you, what you were like at the period of time. And now I'm trying to bring our listeners up to speed on like the current state that you're in, because you're surrounded by savages now. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people don't know that. A lot of people don't know what we have coming up.
Yeah. Before we had a lot more pros in here. So back then, it didn't feel like our gym was as connected. Now I think, we were always a team, but the freedom that comes with being an adult athlete and not being on like a regimented, like your parents bring you to practice and you're on a team and yada, yada, is you don't always see the same people all the time, and people naturally create like little cliques. Since I've been here, the clique issue's gone away. I really think that everyone in this building wants the best for everyone. There's a select few people that I hear people have gripes about, but it's always that we're demanding more of them. It's not like, oh, that person's this or that, or I just don't like them. It's, man, like, we're in here working our ass off. Why are you not? Like, if you want to be a part of this, you better be on our level. It's really created kind of a culture of, excellence like we talk about. It's provided a better chance for leaders to step out, I think, where we have our competition team. It's easier to be like, hey, guys, are we here to have fun, or are we trying to be champions someday? Where when we were just kind of having collective classes, there's hobbyists in there, and you can't be like, get your shit together. As you've noticed, sometimes on Sundays I come in and I'm like, what's the energy today, guys? Like, are we trying to fucking chase our dreams, or is this a Sunday morning practice? Like, how do you feel? And everyone always talks about the energy in the Sunday practices is just different than the rest of the week. I really think that the elite team has allowed a few select people to step up as leaders, and that's empowering more people. I think seeing some of us step out and try to really help each other, or really set a pace, or really provide an example of what it is you need to do to achieve what you want to achieve, has provided good examples for the rest of the team. And there's a lot less goofing around, but we still have a lot of fun, and that's something I always was aiming to try to achieve in here, but I didn't really feel like there was a moment to try to step out and bring this culture into existence. But like the highest wrestling rooms, the with the highest level guys, man, you're beating the hell out of each other, but you're still like having fun, joking around, but you don't stop. Like, you'll be watching jiu-jitsu practice, and sometimes people just stop repping the move and they're talking or whatever. Well, in elite, that doesn't happen. You can rep moves and talk, man, just do that. We all care about each other a lot. There isn't one of us in here that doesn't want to see the other one do their absolute best. We're all trying to drag each other right up along with us, and we're seeing great things come from it.
Yeah, one thing that's been super shocking to me as a coach since we've launched the elite team, and I'm not going to say any names, but almost all the elite team members train harder than anybody else directly into the sport, amateur, pro, anything. I mean, they could be on one fight. They might be one fight amateurs, and they are grinding like they have their next UFC bout coming up in 2 weeks. Like, it's really shocking to me because, and there might be some factor in the way that, like, if you've been in the sport for 10 years, you kind of feel like you've already put your dues in. You've already done this. You don't have to train as hard as these young amateurs. But really, you're competing at a level where the stakes are so much higher, where the people are so much better, where the organization, there's so much more pressure. If anything, that is the exact reason why you should be training as harder. You also alluded to something that was very eye-opening again as I sat here and listened to you, where if you remember, and I'm not going to cite the group of people because I don't want this to sound derogatory in any way, in any direction, towards you, towards them, to anything. But there was a click here at a point in time, and the words were the verbatim what you just said to me, where it's like, hey, we're in here working our asses off. We're in here trying to be better. Where are you at? You're not meeting the standards. And it actually pushed a lot of other people away. But right now, we have the exact same energy in the elite program. That is the energy because it's mandatory. You have to be. But yet it is so much healthier psychologically. I'm sure you feel that. But it's funny, if I could have transposed an image of you to those people in that period, they would have said the verbatim exact same words.
Absolutely.
What is different?
I do think it's handled differently. I think that selective group, while all phenomenal people, great people, definitely deserved to have that viewpoint. They did train their asses off. I think they were more so trying to push the people out that they didn't think deserved it than lift them up. I think it was a lot more of, they're not worth my time. I've heard a lot of people saying that when they were in there, they would feel like they just didn't belong, like they weren't supposed to be there around those people. That's just not the case here.
So it's almost like, remember the ladder or the mountain analogy? They are up there. They cut the rope and they said, hey, you guys are down there. We're up here. We're going to be doing our thing.
Find your way up.
Find your way up. And if you come up, we'll respect you.
Yeah.
If you get your ass up here, we're going to climb together. But if you're not right here, then we got our own things to handle.
Absolutely.
And I want to be clear. There's nothing wrong with that. You don't owe the world anything. You don't owe other people anything. You don't have to throw a rope down. You don't have to take your energy and try to bring other people up. You can take 100% of your energy and just pour it in your own life. I just ask more of you. I ask more of you. Now, you can tell me as a coach, I don't care. I don't care that you think that I should be helping those people and bringing them up. I'm focused on me. And you know what? I'm going to respect that and say, do your best as long as you're not being flat out disrespectful during a training session. That's where problems come in. But what I think is a better culture is when you recognize separation between you're working super hard and someone's not, you throw the rope, you pull them up, you motivate them, you inspire them, you know what I mean? And that takes effort. And that is a little bit going above and beyond what you have to do. But that comes down to who you are. And if you're a type of person that believes in helping others, or when you were down, others picked you up, right? And helped you get on track.
Absolutely.
So why wouldn't you want to be the person that helps pick other people up? Well, that comes down to people are people, and they are who they are. And I'm sure everybody has their own strong perspectives on it, and it's very hard because those are gray areas, okay? They're very difficult things to really put your finger on. It's not a basic algorithm that yields a result. But I will say that the elite energy that I feel in this building is very reminiscent of the basement days when it was me and Brian and the crew, and even in our first warehouse, we had that exact energy because that in my mind is the energy that I always try to exude. But it was almost like the gym got to the point where we got so big so fast, so successful so fast. We went from like this level to like boom, 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 that we lost it for a moment. We weren't our best. We were a shell of what we had the potential of being, because in my opinion, that energy, that culture is the single most important thing. And when I got back to that reality, now I am not afraid to axe anything that doesn't fit that. And before, because I try to lead always with a good heart. I try to lead always with forgiveness. I try to lead always with acceptance. And I would almost allow myself to get walked over by trying to be the bigger man, because from that period of my life, I thought that made me a better man. Yeah. What I realized is that actually doesn't make me a better man. A better man puts his foot down and says, no, this isn't right. This isn't how things are going to be done around me. And as I've gotten older and as I've matured, I've begun to bring that James to light. And now I'm going, no, if you trust me as a coach, that's why you should be here. And if I'm your coach, it is my responsibility to you to present the best possible environment and atmosphere for you to be successful. So I am going to hold you accountable, and I'm going to get on your shit, and I'm going to tell you things you don't want to hear. But in the end, when we both are standing at the top of the mountain and your arm goes up in the air, that's what matters. Mm-hmm. It's not about catering to people on the way there. It's about getting there. You know what I mean? So I guess, dude, we've done this. We're almost at 2 hours.
Oh, wow.
Effortless. Mm-hmm. Like it was nothing. Yeah. All I want to wrap up with, in a perfect world, describe how 2022 ends for you. And then, just anything else you'd like to capture on the podcast, anything you'd like to capture in this glimpse of time, because I'm sure a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, you're going to be a different man than you are now. Mm-hmm. You're going to be at a different level. You're going to be looking back. But I can tell you for sure, and I'm glad to sit across from you today and say this, that I am incredibly proud of the journey that I've seen you go through, because I've known this potential existed within you since early on into meeting you. And I feel like I always tried to express that to you. And there was probably times where you were a little angered at, I was pushing you when you were not being your best. Mm-hmm. And I would do like what you talked about in that college wrestling room. When you started giving me 10%, I cut my 100% down to 60. And then all of a sudden it's probably like, well, why are you giving me 60%, James? Mm-hmm. Instead of, I'm not really being anywhere near what I should be right now. You Absolutely. Know what I mean? But I hope you always know that I've seen the potential. I've wanted to bring it to light. And I believe as you're strengthened by your darkness and as you put all these things together, we're going to do some incredible shit. Yeah. So just 2022, how does it end? Anything else you want to capture, and we'll wrap this podcast up.
Okay. 2022. Well, 3 fights in 4 months was kind of a lot. I think I'm still kind of processing that. But I am somewhere in the realm of thinking I'm better off active because of my upbringing in wrestling. I think having more competition is better than having less. I didn't fall off track once in that 4 months because I had something on the line, but I also, want to have a bit of a life. I fall into this aspect of feeling like I live 2 lives, where I live my athletic life and then I live the life that supports the athletic life. So trying to find some balance there. I work 5 jobs. So not a lot of time on my plate, but for a minute there, I was thinking maybe another fight in like September, but just how I thought it would go, I told myself September because I wanted to take some time and not think about fighting. But now that I've had that time, I'm like, that B2 card in July sounds pretty nice. I would love a pro debut. I would love to potentially fight one of the top 5 guys in the nation if I'm staying amateur. I want a fucking monster if I'm going to stay amateur. I want something that gets my blood going, because the fact of the matter is the best me comes out when I'm the underdog. I want to fight at least 2 more times, maybe 3. I'd like to be pro by the end of the year. I've got a bit of a timeline. I was supremely confident before my surgery that I'd be in the UFC inside 3 years. I still think I can accomplish that. Just a minor setback. But all in all, it's going to be a hell of a lot of, trusting myself, feeling this process and understanding where my balance is, becoming the best version of myself, and finding success after that. I heard something a while ago, and this is back in the lower caliber Thai that you're talking about, where, some people, I don't remember who it was that said, but they were happy they didn't. I think it's Israel Adesanya, actually. They're happy they didn't find success when they were in their earlier years. And I don't think I've been ready. I think I'm close to it now, but I think the me that will stand here in 2 or 3 years will really own the world when I get that type of notoriety. I'll be smart with my money. I'll feel like I deserve it, because I've discovered that that's a very important thing to me. Is I demand a lot of myself, so I have to prove to myself that I deserve what I'm demanding out of myself, if that makes sense. I have to make the practices. I have to be able to look at the body of work I've put together and say, no, yeah, like I deserve what I want. If I'm slacking, and this is the problem, this is why I go on such long hiatuses, I think. If I can look at myself and I know I'm not doing well, I know I don't deserve it. And then it turns into, well, I don't deserve it. So, then, like I said, eventually I hit a point and I'm like, nope, time to get my shit together. Stop feeling sorry for yourself, because that's all it is. But I'm very happy with where my mindset is now, as I'm aware of everything, and the beautiful thing about going through this long journey we've been discussing this whole podcast with depression, is you find the tools that get you out of it, and then you always know what you got to do to figure your shit out. It's like, people talk about getting derailed or whatever, the train fell off the tracks. No, man, the train never falls off the tracks. It's just at a standstill. You don't got to get on the tracks. You just got to remember the steps you took and start chugging along. So I'm trying a new thing out. I've actually got a big calendar on my wall now. I schedule out all my practices, all my privates, like what days I go to work and stuff. So I have a regiment that I'm following. And to be honest with you, it's not quite what I think it needs to be the level I need to be at. I don't quite have the money it takes to do the things that I think I need to do to reach the levels I want to. I already know that I will be in the top rankings of the UFC one day. It's just a matter of how fast I get there. And I truly believe, if I can maybe find a sponsor or something that's willing to really buy into this journey of mine, if I can start getting, a few privates with you a week, a few privates with Danny or Brian, really fine tune some of the areas I know I need to work on with my transitions and my grappling. I want to be very dominant with my positional control, my guard passing, moving all in between positions, man. I want you to feel like you have a fucking cement alligator on top of you when you're on the ground. You can't go anywhere I don't want you to go. And that's the really basic stuff. So that's not the stuff that really gets covered in classes all the time. And for good reason, because it's boring. But, I want to sit here and stare at the stuff that I know will make me unstoppable. I want to cover that. My striking is coming together nicely. There's no complaints there really, but it can always get better. I want to work on my entries to my takedowns. Right now, I just trust my instincts, man. I get in there, and honestly, I don't always even remember the fights. Looking back on my last fight, I got a little upset I didn't stand with him a little more. I'm like, man, I caught that leg. I should have chucked it to the side and kicked him in the head or something. But, wrestling takes over. It's what I've done my whole life.
And you want to fight without really getting hit. I mean, no, you shouldn't have done that. No, you shouldn't. Because what if you get caught with a big punch?
Man,
the judgments that you're making are inaccurate.
Yeah.
You should have just done what you trusted in the moment using your skill set.
I believe I made the right decision career-wise. It's just when we have the framework of wanting to test myself and have some experience just in the amateur league, I haven't really stood and banged with anyone yet. So I was thinking, I felt I was better than him in the stand-up, so that was an opportunity to kind of maybe get comfortable there. Fact of the matter is, though, like I've looked at it, I don't even know how many strikes I absorbed in Miles Lee because I was kind of just controlled. I don't really know if he struck me much. I never went back and watched the fight. I took it for what it was. I learned and moved on. But in my other 6 fights, I think I've been hit maybe 4 times. Like I'm on some Kamzat shit when it comes to that. And like I said, I don't really ever take my achievements to be much because I expect so much out of myself. I left my last fight feeling kind of like meh, like that wasn't that dominant performance. I didn't put on a show. There was no like, whoa, even my high crotch finish, I was like, it was nothing.
One thing I want to say is they don't all need to be. You might get to the UFC one day and you might know your top 10 caliber and you might fight some dude that just stepped up on short notice because someone got hurt. Mm-hmm. Don't underperform yourself because you make it out to not be important.
Right.
Every fight matters.
Right.
So if you start telling yourself, oh, this guy's this, that, and the other thing, and that's when you'll fight your worst.
Yeah.
Your job is there's a man across the ring from you that wants to harm you, harm him so he can't harm you. You know what I'm saying? Otherwise, you'll be very up and down. The fights that you're not that motivated for, you'll underperform. The fights that you're super excited about, that you're not supposed to win, the guy's higher ranked than you, he's a savage, he's got all this hype, you'll probably win. Let's just fight for consistency.
Yeah, absolutely. What I was touching on actually is that I felt disappointed with my performance, but then when I let go of it being me and tried to like watch it as a spectator, I was like, I dominated that fight. Like,
That's how I felt. That's why when you're saying that, I'm like, yo, I watched a complete clinic. It wasn't even an MMA fight. It was a clinic on how to beat someone in a fight that is dangerous with their hands and feet.
Right, exactly. So it's something I should have been proud of, but I wasn't viewing it that way. And that's a perspective that I need to work on. As far as, like I told you, the difference between humility and self-deprivation is I do those things where it should be like, yeah, it was, I should accept it for what it was and then just not brag about it. Where instead I'm like, oh, I should have done so much better. Like that was a shit performance. Like,
see, you know the answers, bro. Just keep seeking. You know the answers.
Yeah.
Just anytime reality starts to distort, just get back to the truth. You know the answers. You know what to do. You answer most of your own questions. A lot of times when you're sitting there, you answer yourself. So when you need an answer, look inward.
Absolutely.
And it's there. Last thing I want to talk about, finally, because I don't want to skip this actually. You get an inside track in a lot of the other amateurs in this team. Let's not talk about the pros because, we got Josh Parisian fighting the UFC coming up. I think he's going to have the best performance of his career. I think he's going to do extremely well. I think he's going to make a statement in this next fight because he went on the verge of deciding whether he even wants to fight anymore. And he found his spark again. He found his fire again. He's been in classes the last 2 nights in a row doing jiu-jitsu and rolling, and he met me in the morning for a private, and his spirit is there, and I'm fired up. I think we're going to see the best performance of his life. But everybody kind of knows about the people that we have that are pros that are solid. Nobody really knows about what's being created behind the doors. Who on the amateur elite team do you think is a serious prospect that the world doesn't know about yet, but you've had like a little bit of an inside track to? Because, man, I'm just thinking it's not just you. It's any amateurs that you want to cite, because I'm going to use this later on when they're at their pro career and go, yo, I just want to show you the prophet over here, Mr. Wildmo.
Good. I'm glad you switched it to any amateurs and not name one because there's no name in one. It's going to be hard not to forget somebody. So let's go with, okay, Miles has a fight this weekend. Miles, my man, is going to be a monster. He is in a very similar spot that I think I am, where he's got a lot more of an internal battle going on than even a skill battle. And you know what? I think he's taken the right steps to figure it out, and I'm very excited to be a big part of that journey. I see very big things for Miles, incredibly skilled. Tristan Canada. Tristan Canada is a crispy boxer. He gets those feet up there faster than you would even think. He's fucking dedicated to improving his wrestling. He's not one that shies away from his weaknesses. He wants to improve. When he gets down to the weight class that he should be at, that's a monster. That's a monster. That man is a dog. And I told him after his last fight, he was down on himself. Bro, he picked that fight up on a week, probably less than a week. And he fought his heart out. He's got what you can't coach. He already has the heart. He's got the determination. He's got the will to be better. Man, we can fix your skills. You've got all the tools you need. Fucking stick to it. Sierra Buxton, criminy, do I have to say anything, man? Hardest worker in the gym. Sierra, hardest worker in the gym. She's an inspiration, dude. She just has this mode. She just goes. It's what she loves to do. I don't think there's much else she finds joy in life. This is her path, and it's.
I don't even know if she feels joy. Okay,
not until she's doing this.
Listen, I'm gonna say it on the podcast. I don't even know if that girl feels joy other than when she's breaking someone's face. But Ty's not kidding when he says she'll train 5 times a day.
Yeah,
she'll train
to a
6
detriment
times a
even
day.
sometimes. Maybe she overtrains sometimes. You know what I mean?
That girl is built. Everyone likes to say I'm built different. No, listen, Sierra is built different. That girl is something.
What was it, 7
She's
baths
terrifying.
with no facial expression change?
She cut this girl real quick for you guys in one day. She started at 7 a.m. in the morning, cut weight until about 3:30. I think we had to be there at 4. Is that right? We had to be at the 4?
Yeah, 4, I think.
In one day, a girl at 135 dropped 14 pounds of water in salt baths without her face changing or complaining a single time. I sat there by the tub going like, okay, She's detached from this world. I've never seen that. I've never seen someone do a 10% cut and not complain at all. Believe it or not, the closest I've ever seen to it, male or female, is another woman. Her name is Sharon Jacobson. In Las Vegas, she hit me up the day before Senior Nationals for wrestling. She was at 134 and needed to be 116. She cut from 34 to 16, made it. 16 pounds to 116 without complaining. And I was like, Sharon Jacobson, you are an animal. But like Sierra, I mean, dudes, full-grown dudes, I've broken down and passed. I've watched people just crumble in a really bad weight cut. Sierra didn't even, I mean, the most I got out of her the entire time was this. I'm gonna emulate her for 10 seconds. Ready? How much time is left? I'm like, you are, oh my God, honest to God, dude. And she cut all the way down. She was in the 50s when she fought. That girl is different. All right, continue.
All right, yeah. Kate is one. She's a sleeper, man. Like, I didn't really realize what was going on. It's nice that now that Zoe's in here training, I get the feedback of what a beast Kate is in jiu-jitsu. I've kind of like started to watch her jiu-jitsu's sick. And then I caught her on the bag the other day, and like her fucking hands are coming along so nice. It's a problem, and I shouldn't say too much more because people keep backing out on her, and they might watch this. But Kate, I'm so excited to watch you debut. Randy Wheeler, I was incredibly impressed with his fight. Okay, now me and Zoe watched that together, and we were like, he puts it all together so smoothly. His fight IQ is so high for a debut. He transitioned between his wrestling to his jiu-jitsu through his striking seamlessly. And I think it helps that he's kind of learned it all side by side. You know, Randy is not a specialist. He's learned all these as he went. So it goes together easy for him. And I'm very...
It's one thing. You said it best. It was seamless. He went from striking to wrestling to jiu-jitsu like it was one technique. And I was like, oh my God. In his debut at 18 years of age.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah. Jay Ross, obviously, just a dog, just a champ. He's a winner. That's all there is to say about Jay Ross. Winner, okay? Beautiful things to come from him. I look forward to it. Obviously, my boy Barlow.
The only one that can beat Barlow is Barlow.
Absolutely.
If Barlow believes in himself and Barlow gets his mind right, Jackson Barlow is going to head kick knock someone out for a world title. It's going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I envision a lot. Like, I don't even try to. Shit just fucking happens in my head. And all the time, it's that man with me where I go. He's in my corner. You know, we're crushing the world together. I truly believe that the moment he accepts his greatness, just like me, like I'm telling you I struggle with, the moment he is ready to believe that he deserves what he wants, everything is his. Everything is his. That man...
You see his last fight? He fought a kid that's been training since he was 10 years old, who wrestles, who boxes, who has great jiu-jitsu. The kid was an absolute animal in phenomenal condition, and it was a war zone in there, and Jackson was right at home.
Yeah. That fight belongs right up there with most of the best pro fights. That was no amateur fight. That was two dudes who know their shit, slanging and intelligently. That wasn't some barnyard brawl. That was crisp striking.
Go watch it. Isaiah Abels versus Jackson Barlow. Go watch it.
Absolutely. It's incredible. Andrew, I'm very excited about Andrew. That's another one of those quiet dudes, dude. He just comes in here and works. He doesn't make a big scene, but man, that last fight was so impressive. I really liked watching him. Man, there's just so many.
Spencer, Bo.
Spencer and Bo. Spencer's already damn good. And I think his last fight, he didn't even show even close to how good he is. He fought at about 10%.
He was coming off a major injury. He hadn't been able to train right at all.
Yeah.
He didn't really go in the right mindset because he was thinking so much about the injury and his cardio and not... Spencer's a problem. I've watched Spencer tap pro fighters left and right. I've watched Spencer almost Peruvian necktie a kid from Rufus Sport in his debut, and he's 18 years of age.
And just ready for what life can give him. He's ready. This is what's beautiful about Spencer for me is I've watched it blossom, and it's it's great to see. I can see him wanting to be the best he can be now. He's ready to accept what life can give him. I think he's ready to see the great that he deserves, and I'm very excited to see him chase it. That dude, his confidence is incredible. He can just do shit because he says he can. I think a lot of the time, like, it's like not even like he learns it. He's like, no, I'm going to do it, and he does it.
I'm just going to do it.
It's great. Bo, I fucking love that kid, as you know. I really feel like our journeys are very similar. As you know, we've had a lot of the same issues. He takes this stuff very seriously. He does film study. He's really starting to let go of what he thought he wanted to be and turn into what he is.
Ivan Aldrin's not even 18 years of age.
Listen, we're not going to talk
the
about
4th of July, he turns 18. I'm going to let him fight in July, and I'm telling you what, somebody's going to be like, this kid just turned 18. I'm going to whoop his ass. Good luck, bro. I'm already writing the apology letter. Like, I swear to God, he just started training. I swear to God, he only just started wrestling. He goes out for his wrestling team in high school, has never wrestled. He's a senior. He goes out for the team, makes varsity, and has a winning record, and is captain of the team. Mm-hmm. Listen, this kid, Ivan,
just the nicest dude you'll meet, too. Such a good kid.
Biggest lats you'll ever meet.
Oh, dude, that dude could fly. Send him off a building.
And I'm sure if we forgot someone, we're just blowing through names. We don't even remember all the people that we cited, but it's just it's an example of the amount of energy and drive and positive momentum in one room is terrifying.
Yeah, man. And not to interrupt.
And this is just the amateurs.
Well, that's what I'm saying is we've seen pros come in and practice with our amateur team and get eaten, get swallowed. They can't keep up.
Johannan Dixon. Johannan. I call him a super soldier. He won't take the nickname. He won't take it. And I'm like, listen, that's not how nicknames work. Mm-hmm. They get bestowed upon you. Yeah. Johannan Dixon is the super soldier, dude. Mm-hmm. That guy is, again, you want to talk about greatness just waiting to be unlocked?
Absolutely.
He is a killer. And he has that behind his eyes, like, you just know that man is a savage. Johannan Dixon.
Mm-hmm. Very excited.
And what are the odds that Johannan Dixon, 2-0, Jackson Ross, 4-0, Spencer Rivas, 4-0, 2-0, Sierra Buxton, 2-0. Like, do you see a pattern here? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, people are going to find out soon.
Absolutely.
So, man, this podcast was incredibly enjoyable. We started just after 1. It is 3:45. Oh, I have to be back here to teach in 45 minutes.
Me too. Yeah.
There you go.
One thing I do want to touch on, I started a different thing, but you're asking my methods for self-development. And there's one specific one that I love to do, and I would like to share that with people. It's kind of a thought experiment where I simply ask myself, what am I doing right now that's holding me back? And what I'll find is I get a very clear answer right away, and then 400 reasons why that it's not messing with me. Justification. My body, I'm speaking right to myself, so I'm going to give myself an honest answer. And that might not always be the case for people. I've really worked on that. But, for instance, back in the day, the one that would always come was, I'm smoking too much weed, man. Like, what am I doing wrong? You're smoking too much weed. No, like, it helps me. It keeps me centered. When I'm having those bad days, it's helping me keep my anger under control, yada, yada, yada.
How did you break free of that? Because I can't even tell you how many people consume their lives with weed and refuse to admit they have a serious problem. Because there are the medicinal qualities. There is blah, 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 blah. But listen, you can smoke weed and have a serious problem, but almost none of them can admit it.
Yeah. For one thing, I feel like there comes a point when you're smoking so much weed where you don't even get high, you just get tired. You're just in a fog. There's the argument that, you are altering your consciousness. It's a state altering thing. What really helped me is I started getting on my diet. I started really doing well on my diet, and I noticed the days that I smoked, I did bad. That was enough for me. It's like, okay, when I'm not putting this, and dude, sometimes like Cat Williams says, there's that special chemical in weed called fuck it. And, sometimes it can really help you. And that's the days that I choose that maybe it's all right. Now is when I'm feeling overwhelmed and I know, like, I'll sit down. I'm like, what is even bothering me? Like, that's usually I'll be like, okay, I'll have a little, and it'll soothe me out. But if there's no reason for me to do it, that fuck it doesn't alleviate anything. It turns into, you don't need to stay on top of your diet, dude. Don't go to practice today. Play some Elden Ring. Like, relax. You deserve it. You know.
So you were actually able to start identifying that, like, listen, this isn't good. Even though I may believe in the good properties of weed, this is not good for where I'm going.
Absolutely.
You want to be on the top of Everest, but the base camp is pretty warm. Mm-hmm. It's cozy, and there's plenty of food. Yeah. Why are you going to keep climbing?
On top of it, just like we talked about earlier, you know, I had the baseline of a highly successful wrestling career where I didn't smoke because I wanted to be successful. You know, so it's like, well, if I wasn't doing it then, why am I doing it now?
You had that vision to go back to.
Yeah. So that helps. On top of that, you know, words to anyone who doesn't have, you know, a baseline of proof to themselves that they can achieve what they want to achieve. Specifically, you know, if it's a weight loss journey, the only thing that fat is stored energy. Literally, that's why your body puts it. It's like, we don't need this now. This is for later. Okay? All you have is a big reserve tank of fuel to get yourself where you're trying to be. And the only thing that's going to happen in your journey is you're going to build strength after strength for proving to yourself, because you didn't have it before. This is going to be a strength you've built incredibly from inside yourself. No help from anyone. This is your decision. The strength that you will get from that journey, I can't even explain it. It's the reason why nowadays when I start feeling down that I'm able to just shrug it off and deal with it, is because I know I have the strength to handle it because I went through that journey. So just because you've never been there does not at all mean you don't have the tools. Reach out to me if you like. You know, I sell diet plans and workout plans. I'm pretty good about working with people and taking the steps necessary. I want to help people. Nothing fuels me more than seeing people find themselves and truly find strength in themselves. And I think that being overweight or being depressed is an incredible opportunity to develop a stupid strength in yourself. Like that, to the point where when I'm feeling depressed now, because it's not like it just goes away, it's nothing but an opportunity, my body telling me, like, listen, there's something in your life that you want to change. Let's find it and let's work on it. That's all depression is. It's all it is a reminder to yourself that you're not doing, you know, that the line about you're playing a character that your spirit no longer wants to play. So, you know, just listen to yourself. It's not defeating. It's, you feel you deserve better for yourself. So it's time to listen. It's time to do some meditation, you know, do some journaling, and treat yourself with love and compassion, and, you know, just have some discipline, and let's see what you can become. So
I'm going to end this podcast with one quote that hits extremely hard, which is exactly what you talked about. Les Brown is one of my favorite motivational speakers of all time. Shout out to the OG. He always said, what you become in the process is more important than the dream. And that's exactly what you're speaking to. What you become by overcoming extreme obstacles, difficulties, pains, heartaches, failures, the person that you can become is the happiness, is the strength, is the thing that can conquer the darkness, that can climb the mountain, that can achieve the dream, right? So remember, it's worth going on the journey. Elden Ring is an awesome example of that. Mm-hmm. You're going to lose and fail so many times, but then when you get a victory, it actually matters. If you played a video game with a cheat code in, where you were God mode and you could just run through every boss, you'd put it down in 3 seconds. What a lot of human beings resist that is so true is we love struggle. Mm-hmm. You just have to reframe struggle to opportunity and not to unfair. Yep. You do that, life can change. So, Ty, this was an incredible podcast. I wanted to try to surprise you and get home and produce this and have it available tonight because I've gotten incredibly fast at my editing. But there is no way I can do that now with it being 4 o'clock. So my hope is to have it available tomorrow night for people. The great thing is now, guys, it is available on every major platform. You want to listen on YouTube? It's there. Spotify, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, Amazon, Audible. It doesn't matter. The podcast is available. So and one last thing that I'm going to start saying on these podcasts is if you want to sponsor this show, I'm looking to have about 3 corporate and business sponsors for this show that want to back our brand, that want to back these stories, that want to back this message. If you believe in what we are creating here and in the message that we are sending and in the impact we're trying to make on the world, reach out to me and we'll see if we can put something together. So thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you, Ty, for being here. And we'll wrap this thing